Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Treasures and Artifacts. And let me start with a simple question. What does a spaceship have in common with a shipwreck? Well, at very least, they share the same resting place on the ocean floor for nearly 4 decades. In 1961, after astronaut Gus Grissom's mission ended in a dramatic splashdown, the Liberty Bell 7 capsule sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, becoming what you could call the world's first spaceship wreck. It remained there until a recovery expedition finally set out to find it. But the recovery of Liberty Bell 7 led to another unexpected discovery. The expedition also identified a forgotten Martian wreck, now known as Atlantic Sands, carrying a cargo of coconuts and something even more valuable, a chest of silver coins. A very few of those coins ever reached collectors, but that changed in 2025 when hundreds of them suddenly appeared on the market in NGC holders. There was one major problem. Dozens of those labels were flat out wrong, and somehow nobody seems to have noticed until now. So it's time to begin with a video that will probably get me taken off NGC's Christmas card list. Let's dig in. Okay guys, let me take it from the start. It happened some year ago when I found first coin with obvious error label on eBay. I thought, fair enough, mistakes happen. I realized that there could be something wrong when I found another coin later. And the deeper I looked, the worse it got. I've always considered NGC a reputable company. An occasional mistake is one thing, but the sheer number of errors in this group of coins is something else entirely. To make sense of it all, I divided the problems into 3 categories, starting with the least serious. The coins from this wreck are numbered from 1 to 687, which made it easier to review a large number of examples. The first category is not the most serious, but it is still worth pointing out. In several cases, NGC gives a date range even though the actual date on the coin appears to be clearly visible. For example, coin number 388 is labeled as 1780 to 1789, even though the date 1786 seems to be legible on the coin itself. Now, whether you consider that a true mistake is up for debate, but at very least it raises questions. At the other end of the spectrum are coins where NGC assigns a precise date, even though almost nothing on the coin is clearly visible. And there are quite of these. To be fair, a scan only shows one angle. It is possible that details visible in hand do not show up probably in the slab photo. So on these examples, I will leave some room for doubt and let you judge for yourself. Examples include coins number 385, 389, and 444. The final category may not even be an NGC error at all. Coins number 412 and 481 do not appear in the NGC database. That could mean those coins never actually left NGC. So for now I'm treating these as questionable entries rather than confirmed errors. Up to this point, most of the issues have been somewhat debatable, but now we move into cases where the problems appear to be real and much harder to excuse. These are not just vague impressions or missing records. These are coins where the identification itself seems to break down. Let's start with coin number 285. According to the label, this coin is supposed to be from Bolivia, but the reverse clearly shows the letters OM, which points to Mexico, not Bolivia. And on top of that, the date also appears questionable. To my eye, it seems to begin with 17, which would place it to the 18th century. Now take coin 483. NGC labels it as a coin from 1790, but based on the visible design, this appears to be an earlier type altogether, a pillar dollar, which would place it in the first half of the 18th century. If that identification is correct, then this is not just a minor dating problem. This is the wrong coin type entirely. Then there are coins where the date appears to be fairly readable, and yet the label still gives the wrong year. Examples include coin number 466, 384, and 288. At this point, it becomes difficult to explain these away as scanner issues or borderline readings. These look much more like straightforward identification mistakes. So far, you could still argue that some of these problems fall into gray area. Not anymore. The next examples are kind of mistakes that are impossible to miss and impossible to defend. This is where the title of the video stops sounding dramatic and starts sounding accurate. Because what comes next is not a minor labeling issue. It's a full-blown grading nightmare. This is the coin that started the whole thing. According to the label, it's an 1804 half real from Guatemala, and it's marked hold. But in reality, the coin is from Mexico, dated 1803, and it's completely intact. Wrong country, wrong year, wrong details, and no hole. This is not a small miss, this is a spectacular failure. The next coin, number 188, appears to match that Guatemala description much better. But once again, the year on the label is wrong. NGC gives it as 1799, even though the coin appears to be from a different year. And this cannot be explained away as a simple swap with the previous coin because the previous one was dated 1803. So whatever happened here wasn't just one label ending up on the wrong slab. Coin 190 is even harder to excuse. The date on this piece is struck fairly clearly, and yet NGC still certified it as an 1803 half real, even though the coin shows a different year. When the date is sitting there in a plain view, this kind of a mistake becomes very difficult to understand. Coin number 287 tells a very similar story. Here again the year is beautifully struck and easy to read, and yet the label identifies it as 1793 half real, while the coin itself appears to be 1803. At that point this is no longer a borderline call, it's simply wrong. And finally we get what looks like a direct mix-up. Coin 86 is labeled hold, even though it appears to be fully intact. Meanwhile coin 83 carries the opposite problem. It is described in a way that suggests it shouldn't be hold, yet it is the one with a hole. This looks very much like a simple swap between two descriptions. And if that is what happened, then it tells us something important. These were not isolated mistakes. This was a breakdown in the process. Of course, after making these findings, I contacted NGC because I had several perfectly legitimate questions. For example, is NGC aware of this batch of mislabeled Atlantic Sands Shipwreck coins? How did these labeling errors occur? At what stage of the grading, encapsulation, or labeling process did the failure happen? And many more. And this was their response. Hello Joseph, thank you for bringing this to our attention. NGC employs a rigorous multi-step process designed to ensure accuracy. In the rare instances that errors do occur, we take them seriously and we will conduct a thorough review in this case. Upon completion, we will make all updates necessary in NGC's certification database, which will be reflected in certification verification. If a coin has been improperly described, it may be returned to NGC at any time for correction. In such cases, the coin will be reholdered at no cost to the owner, and return shipping will also be covered. This process is supported by the NGC guarantee and is available to all customers without limitation. Should the current owners of these coins contact us directly, we will be happy to guide them through the simple return process and ensure that any necessary corrections are completed promptly at no charge. Now, of course, this response didn't really satisfy me. What I wanted to know was how the current owners of these coins are supposed to find out whether their coins are affected by the labeling errors. Because not every collector will be able to recognize these mistakes at first glance. Unfortunately, by the time this video was published, I hadn't received any further response from NGC. That's all for today, guys. I'm honestly looking forward to your comments on this one, because I really want to know how serious this looks from your point of view. And also, these videos take a huge amount of time and effort to put together, so if you enjoy this one, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. You can also join my Patreon, when you will get access to new episodes before everyone else, along with many extra materials. In this case, that includes the full list of Atlantic Sands coins graded by NGC, with all the errors clearly marked. And if you have any ideas, suggestions or materials for future videos, or if you've spotted our mistakes made by grading companies, feel free to reach out to me at treasuresandartifacts@gmail.com. That's really all for today. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.